And you have to be that cocky. You have to be that much energy, because if you knew how hard it was going to be and all the things you were going to have to learn, you wouldn't start.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. Every week, every episode, my team and I get to interview awesome business owners. They're real people building real businesses. They've experienced and are sharing real lessons, and they're currently experiencing and sharing real challenges. My name is Brett Gilliland. I'll be the host of today's episode, and I'm here with Maya Weinreb. Maya is the founder and CEO of Solvency Now Bookkeeping. She and her team help business owners do all the things that we don't want to spend our time doing. We want to spend our time getting and serving our clients, our customers, our patients, our audience. And we don't always like to do the back end stuff, the bookkeeping, the taxes, all that kind of stuff. And so thankfully, there are people like Maya and her team over at Solvency Now Bookkeeping who are helping us do that kind of work. Welcome to the show, Maya. We're glad you could be here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. If you start hearing a storm in the background, it just started pouring. It is the mid-afternoon, everyday summer storms here in Florida near Tampa. So I apologize if you hear loud pitter-patter. But yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I am happy to be able to help in whatever way I can. And yes, luckily for all the business owners in the world, you've got people like me who love doing that stuff. That is fun for me. I know people tell me I'm crazy. It's probably true.
Well, we need a little crazy in our life, and we definitely all need a little help with bookkeeping and taxes and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Maya, to you and your team for what you do. If I didn't introduce Solvency Solvency Now correctly, I'd love for you to give a little bit more context, and then we'll jump into the interview.
Yeah, I think you actually did a great job. I think that's exactly what we do, is all the back office things that nobody likes to do. We are a full service boutique bookkeeping firm with concierge level service. So we basically can do everything. We can't help every type of company, but we have almost 150 companies that we do bookkeeping for. I currently have a team of 14. And I have I had to learn a lot of lessons, which I know we're going to talk about, but I have a full-time customer service person. I have a full-time quality control person because of many lessons I've learned. And so we help service-based and professional services businesses. So we have marketing companies, lawyers, medical professionals, contracting companies. I even have some actors and influencers. All of those, and we have e-commerce guys. So we have lots of different types of companies, but we kind of niche to the service-based and professional industries. I don't have any, restaurants or hotels, or although I do have some Airbnb guys, but different than a hotel. And I don't have any product-based businesses other than some of the e-commerce guys. So yeah, we do everything. We have clients where we just do once a month, we go in to their QuickBooks Online and we do their categorization, reconciliation, and reports that just need a very basic service. And we have clients where we are, doing a budget for them every week, doing the accounts receivable, paying all their bills, running the payroll. We have a client that we just helped him. Not that this really falls in our scope of service, but he really needed help. His daughter was moving to an apartment in New York, and they basically needed a personal financial statement in order to fill out the application form. So we helped him with that. We do payroll audits. We do compliance work. We'll do LLC setups and S-Corp elections and 1099 filing, payroll registrations, because everybody is remote these days. They're hiring employees in multiple states. So we're really, really full service, except for because we don't do product-based. We're not doing inventory and sales tax type of stuff, which sales tax, I could go on a rant about how complicated that's gotten since I came up in bookkeeping, many years ago, and why we don't do that, and why we think you should get a specialist. But anyways, That's the
That's
gist of it.
that's you guys. Okay, Maya,
Everything
thank
that's
you.
complicated and hard, and so that it's all tied up in a bow and ready for your CPA.
Awesome. All right, so Maya, you mentioned that you have 14 people now. You didn't always have 14 people, and
No.
you have 150-ish clients that you serve. You didn't always have that. So
Yeah.
as you've built your business, you've had to learn quite a bit about managing in an increasing level of complexity with
Yes.
more clients, more team members. You're not just doing the bookkeeping now, you're moving into leadership types of roles and activities yourself. So what are some key lessons that you've learned
Oh
as
my
you've
gosh.
grown Solvency Now Bookkeeping?
Such good questions. Yeah, I think, I kind of say this, but I started out thinking when I started my company, I feel like, and as probably most entrepreneurs do, feeling like I was just smarter and better than all the people that I'd ever worked for. And they were just like, they didn't know what they were doing. And they really didn't on the bookkeeping and accounting, but they were all really good at other things that when I started my company, I went, oh, I don't know how to do hiring, managing, marketing, sales, everything else. I only knew how to do my one little thing that I really am better than most business owners at. Um, so yeah, it was quite challenging and a lot of like, I saw some, young, naive guy post recently on Facebook, a friend of mine in his very early 20s who, how come people always ask you how long you've been doing it for? Just because you've been, doing it less time doesn't mean you're any. And I was just like, oh, you remind me of me. Because we get so, when we're new, and you have to be that cocky. You have to be that much energy because if you knew how hard it was going to be and all the things you were going to have to learn, you wouldn't start. You wouldn't. You would be like, that's if somebody gave you a list of all like the pitfalls you were going to run into and how hard they were going to be in the blood, sweat, and tears, you would just be like, yeah, that seems like that seems like the hardest thing I've ever done. That's harder than the college degree. That's harder than the, and you're like, I don't know about that. So I think it's good, right? You have to start fresh and young and energetic and thinking that you know more than everybody else, and then learn that you don't, and really learn. And so yeah, to go back to some specific things, I guess that I ran into was yeah, like one thing was you can't do everything yourself. Uh, and I love bookkeeping. It's fun for me. And I held on to the bookkeeping and the billing for my company internally for a long time because I was like, I don't, it got to a point where I didn't do bookkeeping for any companies anymore. I had a bookkeeping team. I have a quality control person that reviews it. I help out, when they run into problems or things, but generally I'm not in the production delivery area of my company anymore. But I held on to that bookkeeping because I like it. And it's you can relax and just numbers don't lie. It's very logical and then I was like, well, if I want sleep, I probably should give this to someone else. And then finding someone, just as hard as it is to find bookkeepers for hiring, finding someone who I didn't even need them to be super trained because I'm reviewing everything. They're running my bookkeeping daily. It could even just be like an executive assistant, but finding someone who could understand the nuances of all the things I've been doing every day to turn it over was impossible. And, um, and how like betrayed and offended you feel as a business owner when someone quits. Like, how could you do that to me after all this time I spent investing in you and training you? And then you kind of go, well, I quit the place I work to go start my own company or to go get a better job with more money. So you have to get over it. And you have to look at it from the point of view of the individual going, they're doing what's best for them. Might not be what's best for me. But there's so many things. I almost don't even know where to start. But like, yeah, people, and I like people, but having to learn, right, how to manage people. Like, I'm a perfectionist. I'm obsessed with the customer experience. So what to do when my bookkeeper makes a mistake. I'm not, I decided when I started my company, I'm not going to be the kind of boss that yells at people, because I got yelled at by these freaking boomers and I thought that was ridiculous. This is how you talk to people. You don't treat people like that. We're all here trying to do what you're here doing. So I was not going to yell at people. And then what do you do when someone messes up really big or doesn't understand you, or you've explained to them 4 times or asked them 5 times? How do you navigate that? Like, whew. So, and
So
just,
Maya, let me interrupt real quick. I just want to know, because all of these things you're talking about, these situations that we all face as business owners, and I love the way you describe what it's like as a business owner, right? It's like I've felt that gut punch before, and I've felt, it's almost like personally offended that somebody left, and all the things you're describing. All of our listeners going, "Yep, been there. I feel that, sister," right there, saying, "Preach." But what have you done, or where have you gone to learn some of the things? I mean, the real experience sometimes is the teacher, right?
yeah.
These circumstances is the teacher. But if you're reaching for places or people or books that help you learn about this stuff, what have you found helpful?
Okay, so a few things. Like, I hired a business coach who could help me and kind of talk me off the ledge sometimes when I needed it. I did that. I tried having business partners in the beginning. That failed spectacularly both times I tried. Learned a lot of lessons there. Um, I feel like I go to a lot of seminars and do a lot of, like, if anybody is ever follows me on socials, they'll see I'm always all over the place. But I don't take vacations really. Like, I will be like, let me go to a seminar in Aruba so that I can, still go there on the weekend after the seminar. But I do a lot of entrepreneur seminars. I actually have done a lot of Hubbard management training. And I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like a management system, which has
Mhm.
helped me. And then I also have done a lot of Cardone U, which I don't know if you are. Some people love Grant Cardone and some people hate him. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, like a polarizing figure? Is that what you're looking for?
That's the
Yeah,
word I'm looking for. And I understand why, because he's a lot, but I don't do real estate. I have real estate clients, but I do his sales training, and some of his other stuff has actually been really helpful. So I'm always learning, and I'm trying to read books. I don't, like most business owners, don't have enough time or as much as I want to. So I have a giant stack of books I want to read.
yeah,
And I think my biggest, like you said, teacher has been experience. I tried it one way, it didn't work. I tried it a different way, it worked a little better. I tried it a different way, I learned from that. And I've been doing this for 6 years now. And there's business owners who have been doing it a lot longer than me and are a lot more successful than me. And there's business owners who are just starting out, So, but I've been pretty successful. And with a bookkeeping firm, having hit 7 figures is pretty remarkable. It's not that common, So
yeah,
I feel like one thing that I do is I learn fast. I try not to make the same mistake over and over and over. So when I go, okay, that didn't work. What can I do different? How do I change that? How do I handle that? And there's certain areas where I think it's less that way, that I've made the same mistake over and over again, and certain areas where I've learned it faster. And there's still things that I need to be doing better. Of course, right? Like
yeah.
so okay, we hit 1 million revenue last year. We're going to be around the same this year, but how do I get to the 10 million? And
Right.
as a bookkeeping firm, which is not a common type of industry to be a big company, and big companies, big small business.
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah. And
for sure.
what things that are part of my company and my company culture do I keep that are like super successful, that need to be core things that stay, and what things need to change so I can scale? Like, I'm navigating that, and have been for the last year, and learned a lot. But I don't know. I go on tangents. So ask me the question again in
That's
case I
okay. No,
didn't.
I'm actually I'm gonna summarize the very good answer that you gave instead of asking again. for everybody listening, and I mean, we can mention Hubbard Management Training and Grant Cardone and what else did you say? Oh, seminars. Oh, Aruba. You mentioned a place, but let's take names and places out of it for a second. What I heard you say is you've gone to several sources to get help. You've done coaching. You do lots of seminars. Anything to help yourself grow. You read a lot or listen to books, right? But anything to help yourself grow, because you know that your business is not going to go where you need it to go if you're not the person who's ready to take it there, if you're not the leader that it needs.
100%. That I
Yeah.
think that's a perfect summarization. And not even the leader that it needs, but like not even just the leader that it needs, but also having the vision and the willingness. Because when when I first started, I was like, great, I'm gonna get to 1 million. Then I hit 1 million and I was like, well, now what? Do I just kind of hang out here? And I
Yeah.
went to one of those Grant Cardone seminars and they were like, if you were at 1 million, go for 10 million. And I was mad at them. I was
Mm.
like, how dare you? Do you not think 1 million is a big step? Like, what are you, 10 million? Are you crazy? And I was really mad at them. And I had to get my own willingness and vision big enough and like stretch those like mental muscles to be willing to go for, okay, how can I get that big though?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it was rude. They were rude. There is nothing wrong with 1 million. Why do you guys need me to be bigger?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say congratulations for getting to seven figures. It's
Thank you.
something that, depending on the numbers you believe out there, the numbers don't lie, but there are lots of sources on this number. Like
Yeah.
how many businesses that start actually make it to 1 million in revenue? I've heard as little as 3% of those businesses make it to 1 million. I've heard as many as 7% of those businesses make it to 1 million. It's less than
I
10%.
I
So
heard 9% at
yeah.
the last, thing. So I was like, all right, I'm in the top 9%. This
Well,
is great.
and with with inflation and things, and now maybe it is easier to get to 1 million than it used to be. But the
Yeah,
point is,
million
it's
doesn't
still
doesn't
relatively
fix this
few.
bar.
It's relatively few. So congratulations on doing that.
Thank you.
And then the question is, yeah, now what? Do we have bigger aspirations? Do we see a bigger vision? So I love the way you're thinking about that. And I appreciate the lessons that you've shared. You've definitely connected with real things that real business owners experience all the time. And I think you've pointed out, hey, those of us who have aspirations to do something more or to get better in our role, we have to invest in ourselves.
You
Sometimes
have
that's a
to.
coach. Yeah, sometimes that's a coach. Sometimes that's seminars or seminars that double as vacations, as you put it.
Yes, tax
Right?
deductible ones. Those are the best.
Tax. Yeah, let's not forget that part.
Yeah. And I also have a mentor. Like I have an industry specific mentor. So he doesn't like necessarily mentor me on everything, but we talk about once a month, once every other month. And I ask him my growing pain questions because he owns a
Mm,
much bigger bookkeeping firm than me. So I ask him my growing, okay, so how do I and this and what's the best like software and what do you do when your bookkeepers do this and they and how's the and he's already figured out most of this, but he also loves talking to me because I have slightly different experiences and points of view. So he kind of gets to bounce his ideas and see, our differences and similarities. And so I think we learn from each other. But that was something that I also got a few years ago where I have and I love, when small businesses, when like bookkeeping firms, when they reach out to me and I go, yes, let me show you my tech stack. Let me show you, because it's not about competition. There's 33 million small businesses in the US and they all need a bookkeeper. So, like, and the more I help people, the more I get help. And that's my whole thing. So, not that it's like easy to get a spot on my calendar, but if someone's like, hey, would love a few minutes, can I pick your brain? I really try to be like, yes, let me help you. Let me be that person for you that I have had other people be for me because what goes around comes around and, help is karma.
well, your mentor's not here to speak for himself or herself, but uh, I, I'll just say on behalf of everybody listening, that person probably benefits a little bit from the energy. They're feeding off the energy that you bring as well, Maya. So I'm
Yeah.
sure there's lots of new ideas, energy. great stuff that you're learning and can share. Okay,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
that
You
was one.
shared.
What? Sorry, just to say on that. That was one of the
Oh,
reasons he likes talking to me, because when I started talking to him, my company was making probably a couple 100,000, and his company was making several million revenue, and I was like, but I'm working. I'm gonna hit that million. Like, I need to figure out how to get there. And I wasn't just like, I just want my 5 clients to pay my bills. And that is why he was like, okay, I see your vision. I see your energy. Like, let me help you. So sorry, I just wanted to.
yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. It's infectious, right? People are attracted to people who have intentionality about where they're going, and the passion to go make it happen. So really cool. All right, Maya, let's shift gears. You figured out a lot of great stuff along the way. You're continuing to learn and grow.
Yes.
What is something that you're trying to tackle now in your growth journey that I might be able to help with today that could help some other business owners well?
Okay. So, very good question. I think one thing that I run into, like I said, is figuring out which parts of my company are the core successful actions that need to, or installations that need to not change, but only like maybe just keep growing exactly as they are, and which ones need to change. Because one thing that happened for me at the end of last year was, or towards sort of this time last year, I said, okay, so we're definitely on track for a million. We're going to hit it. So everybody always says, what got you to the million is not going to get you to the next step. So let me like change all this stuff to get to the next step. And my KPIs went, "Ugh," and I had to then quickly pivot and say, never mind, do what we were doing before. And kind of like, I don't know if most of your listeners have probably experienced this too, but like that, the inertia of when you just like went a different direction and now you have to go back to where you were, like that, like pulling up an anchor by hand. Woo! So it took many months to get back on track. And the beginning of this year was not as strong as the beginning of last year. Um, so I don't know if that's something you can help me with or not, but I think that that's like where I'm at on my growth right now, really, is figuring out, what are the foundational things that need to remain? And what are the things that when people say, oh, you can't do what you did to get to the next step, are the things that need to change, because it's not what I thought it was.
Well, Maya, I think you've teed up an issue that is a great issue for lots of business owners. We're always looking at ways to take that next step, and sometimes we might take a step that actually takes us backwards. Like we might have thrown a little bit of the baby out with the bathwater,
Yeah.
which is a horrible analogy that we keep saying. But
Yeah.
it's that whole thing is like we had something that was working. In the pursuit of the next thing, let's not mess up what's working.
Yeah.
So
And like one of
yeah.
the things that I did was I said, okay, well, obviously, in order to get to the next step, I need a bunch of marketing, and I need more, team members. And so I went on a hiring spree kind of expensive people who are even good people that I really like, but then I couldn't afford them. Paid for a bunch of marketing, paid for a bunch of people, was instantly like 2 months later no longer profitable, for a second before I pulled that anchor back up,
Yeah.
and was in a spot of like, do I need to fire people? Do I need to let people go for the first time in my career because of profitability issues? Like I've doubled my growth every year. This is the first year that I think, we're going to be a little bit more than last year, but we're not going to be 40 to 60% bigger like I normally am. So all those lead gen companies that told me blah, 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 that got me nothing, literally nothing. All the expensive executives that I hired that tried their best, but didn't, which is a systems thing I learned later. Like, I didn't take all the pieces out of my brain, document it, and say, here's how I've been doing this. Now you do it, right? So I had to do that. But like, so those things I know were the wrong things to do. But there's other things where I'm a little more cautiously, gingerly, looking at things, like not wholesale, but but that's, why I'm only going to be just, I mean, if I could hit like a little over a million, I'll be really happy. Like I will, but you know what I mean? It's not the growth that I had been experiencing in the past.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before I have a bazillion thoughts to share with you and not enough time to do it. So let's do this. Before I share a few things, I'll narrow it down to a select few. Before I share a few things, let's answer the question, so what first. So what? What if you don't figure this out? Then what? What happens?
Well, so there's two things, right? There's so what, I don't figure it out. Do I stay the same size or grow only a little bit? That's okay. I'm willing to do that in order to take my lumps, learn my lessons, regroup, and then keep going. But if we say so what, and if I hadn't pulled up the anchor again and pivoted and put back the things that I was doing, I would have had to start letting people go, and that is just awful because I think as a business owner, you really have to own and take responsibility for the fact that these people's livelihoods depend on you and what you do. And the heartlessness of corporate America, of like the sorry, it's just business. There's truth in it. Profitability is important, but like I don't want to fire people. And it was like it was like November. I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
firing people before Christmas because so how do I like get funding, or whatever, but like when I started my company and I was just this very cocky, naive person, I messed up my credit score because I just like took some loans out. And so I've built this with almost no funding. It's been bootstrapped like to the no, like I have a business credit card of $3,000. That is how great my credit was. And it's coming back. It's almost fixed, right? But like profitability doesn't translate to my own personal credit yet. And so it wasn't like there was a bunch of banks that just wanted to lend me money. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I have to stay profitable and I have to make the business the most important thing because my business is paying for all these people's livelihoods. So there was, it wasn't just like, oh, well, so what? It was like, no, I have to turn this around. It doesn't, and again, like, not that it was like, okay, fine, I don't hit 1.5 million this year. Okay, fine, that's fine. I can learn, regroup, and do it next year. But I
Yeah.
can't go down to 500,000 revenue and fire half my people and like ruin their lives and then not be able to service my clients correctly and then that was
Yeah.
like absolutely, that was not happening.
That's a
And
destructive downward spiral, right? That sort of move.
yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't happening. So that's the answer to the, there was,
So what?
it
Yeah.
had to get fixed. It could not. And maybe for other people, they can get funding and they can just cover payrolls for 6 months until, but I'm literally bootstrapped. The company has funded itself from the beginning.
Yeah, and even if they do have funding, it doesn't matter. They can't run an unhealthy business for very long. I
Yeah,
love that your company is called Solvency Now. I'm like, yeah, if you go insolvent on that, that's breaking the brand promise altogether, right?
100%. And
Okay,
so it fixed. And yeah, this is not the U.S. budget. We don't get to
yeah,
have a 10 trillion
that's
debt.
right. No funny money, no funny money here.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't get to print
so
it.
let me share a few ideas. You said something that many of us have heard: "What got you here won't get you there," and that's absolutely true. In another excuse me, another setting, another time, Maya, I would love to share with you uh, a document, a resource we have access to called the stages of small business.
Yeah,
And it's about the stages of small business as they grow. There's a pattern on the ones and threes of revenue. And so unbeknownst to you, you hit one of them at a million. That's a very normal place for a business to sort of plateau. Growth, 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 plateau. And that's because the people, processes, and systems that were sufficient to get us to that point are necessary but insufficient to get us to the next point. and there has to be a shift that happens in our business.
Yeah.
That shift is partly in we'll call it people and leadership, and partly in organization structure, organization, process, and systems, that sort of thing. So people, processes, and systems
Yeah.
have to upgrade, they have to up level in order to go to that next 3 million mark, and then
Yeah.
10 million, 30 million, 100 million, and so forth. So every time you triple the business, you're at a new stage, and there's going to be a natural inclination to slow down until we shift gears, we figure out what it takes to go to the next place.
Yeah. And
So
I've definitely observed that.
yeah, you're feeling that, right? You're right in that
Hmm.
spot. So how do you keep the things that were essential, not just kind of okay, but essential to getting to that point, but add the necessary parts that need to help you go to the next. And
Exactly. And figuring
I,
out what that is.
and figuring out what that is. Yeah. So I would say that most business owners around that $1 million mark are having to learn the lesson that you talked about previously, which is I can't be the bookkeeper of my own business anymore. Like I have to figure out how to get out of that. So there's something for you as the business owner that's extracting yourself from the day-to-day operations of the machine that has
Hmm.
to happen. There's also the beginnings of, we'll call them functional teams or a leadership team, right? Where
Hmm.
now, client acquisition is starting to form its own thing separate from fulfillment. And
Yeah.
those activities may have always been separate, but they may have been all found within you as one person. You were doing
Yeah.
both of those things. And so you start to split those out and you start to build a real leadership team. And this is important. The people that helped you get from at 100,000 to 300,000, it might have been you and a failed partnership, right? But from 300,000 to a million, there were team members who helped you grow in that journey, but they don't know what it looks like from 1 million to 3 million.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, right? It
I mean,
depends on the
I don't
experience,
even know.
and you don't
How
know,
they
right?
even
You
know.
like, yeah, yeah. So you're figuring that out. So any work that you guys can build into your business right now that is, I'll call it company building or working on the business, not just in it. With those are phrases we've all heard, especially if we've
Yeah.
spent any time trying to develop ourselves as leaders. We have to spend more time working on the business and not just in it. But a lot of times we say those words, but we don't actually know what it looks like to work on the business. What does it look like to shift from 1 million to 3 million? Well, I would propose to you that part of that is a planning and execution rhythm that balance might be the wrong term, but spends enough time on the day-to-day operational excellence of your business while you're building the future capabilities that are needed,
Yeah.
right? So that is a challenge for a lot of businesses because we get pulled into the day-to-day chaos, the whirlwind, the
The
fires.
whirlwind. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I read
So
that book. The one that they call the
4DX,
whirlwind. What?
yeah. I think it's called Four Disciplines of Execution
That
by the
one. I
the
read that.
Franklin Covey people. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whirlwind. Um, yeah, and it doesn't matter if you've read that book or not. We've all experienced what it feels like to get sucked into our inbox and our Slack and our texts and
Yeah.
all the stuff
Yeah,
coming at
and
us.
it's your team members. They don't notice because they're trying to get their job done and they need your help, or they ran into a client situation or some other situation, but they don't realize that you had your own to-do list that day, and they're kidnapping you every time they take longer or ask you for something that wasn't on your list instead of just like adding it to the bottom of the list. And so you have to be able to, as the business owner, the executive, whatever, the manager, make the instant decision. Is this something that is important enough for me to stop what I'm doing, or do I need them to make an appointment on my calendar when there's a spot? So it's a constant decision. Like that whole thing where, who was it, Steve Jobs was saying he doesn't want to have to decide what to wear every day because
Right.
he has so many decisions throughout the day. I have that too, where I'm like,
Well, that decision burden, that decision fatigue,
yes,
anything we can do to minimize that is great. And so one way to do that is to have really shared vision about what we're building together, the strategies to go achieve that vision, and what the specific priorities are for us right now as a
yeah,
business for the year and for the quarter. Because and that's working on the business stuff. That's
hmm,
building the future part, which often gets neglected. So if we have total clarity on the bigger picture strategic progress side of things, now as a team, we can run faster without stopping and saying, should we do that? What do you think, Maya? And we have a lot less of this decision fatigue
Yeah.
because we have bigger picture clarity about what are our priorities, aligned with what strategies in order to
Yeah.
achieve the mission that we're out to achieve.
Yeah, can I say something that really quickly?
Yes.
A lesson that I learned earlier on when I first started my company, I kind of didn't know what to do. So I was just wanting to be involved in everything, and it made me feel important. And then I realized much later that I cannot review every email because I am a perfectionist. I think a lot of women are, right? But I'm also a bookkeeper. So I'm like, through the penny, right? So I realized much later I can't handle every single thing for people. They can send it to me to review after the fact, and when I get to it, I get to it. But I cannot make the decision on every single thing, and I have to empower my people to make decisions and move forward. And I have to have company procedures and company policies. And we have a lot of documentation and things like that, but it needs to get better. But it was like a mindset thing where I had to realize that the reason I wanted to be infoed on and know everything was because it made me feel important. And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's dumb. I have way too much to do now. That's not, and I don't need to feel important. I just need to get
Well,
shit done.
there's this dopamine hit, right? It's like I figured it out. I know how to do that, and I want people to come and ask me as the know-it-all business owner or the expert. And it's like, nope. The sooner we can get over ourselves and say this business
Yeah,
deserves to have life
but it's
without
hard. It's
me,
hard to get over yourself.
it is. And we have to separate the business from us and have this business deserves to have life independent from me, and it's not about me. Okay, so Maya, everything that you were sharing is absolutely fantastic. I want to share one more idea as we wrap this up. Because as you think about how do I try new things without messing up what's working today? I guess a couple thoughts to go with that. One is go to the proven sources, right? Go to mentors, ask for what works in your space in particular. I love that you have an industry specific mentor. I think that's super valuable. So keep that up. But the other thing I would recommend is a concept that comes from Jim Collins, and the concept he labeled it um, fire bullets and then cannonballs. So in other words, don't go all in on an idea until you've tested it with like let's make sure that the bullets are
Yeah.
hitting the target, that it's doing what we want it to do before we go throwing a cannonball worth of resources at it and wish that we could pull it back. Right? Sometimes
Learned
we go
learned that
yeah,
lesson. Agreed.
yeah.
100%. And now I preach that to other people. Like, pilot it, test it first.
Yes, that's right. Pilot it, test it first. Let's be slow to disrupt the thing that's serving clients today until we've proven that we've got something that's even better. So
Yeah.
those are great lessons. Thank you so much, Maya, for bringing your real experience, your real lessons, real challenges. I think it'll help other business owners who are going through similar things. Okay, Maya, if people want to learn more about Solvency Now bookkeeping or connect with you on social, how would they do that?
Okay, so you can go to my website, which is solvencynow.com. You can email me because I answer all the emails, and my customer service rep helps me because otherwise that would be insane. But my email is maya@solvencynow.com. And you can also find me on pretty much all the socials, except for X. We're not on X yet for some reason, but either under Maya Weinreb or Solvency Now Bookkeeping. I have a podcast called The Bottom Line, and that's on everywhere podcasts are. So you can follow it on, Spotify, all of the places. And yeah, I do little clips from that as well as other funny reels because I'm really trying to make bookkeeping not stressful and kind of like, let's make it fun and light and entertaining. So I do, I don't do TikTok dances because that's too much, and I'm a millennial and not, Gen Z. But, I have some funny things on there. So Maya Weinreb or Solvency Now Bookkeeping on And on TikTok, I'm on Solvency Now Bookkeeping. On YouTube, it's Solvency Now Bookkeeping. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can go either to my name or my company. And I really, like I said, try to put out a lot of content to help people. So, because that's the name of the game. Like, let's help business owners succeed. That's what I want to do. That's my purpose. So yeah, you can go solvencynow.com, Maya at solvencynow.com, or all of my socials that my VAs are so good at sharing after I make it.
All right. Very good. Thanks for being here, Maya. I really appreciate everything you've done to bring some ideas, some experience, open up some challenges for others. Okay. For everybody out there listening, please share, like, review, comment, do all those things to help as many seven-figure business owners get access to this episode, as well as all the other episodes we have with amazing business owners like Maya. We love to help seven-figure business owners figure out how to do the business building work that will enable them to build the business that they always wanted. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast.